We spoke with a lot of demand gen teams in 2024. We consistently see a few patterns. One being that the top percentile teams have a laser sharp focus on who they are selling to, the accounts they sell to, and in a way, they believe in prospect less, sell more. So today we are talking with Matt, who is the VP of Marketing of Logic Sport. They are growing really fast. They've raised 50 million plus, and they're focused on a specific vertical. Matt wrote a post on how they are deploying machine learning based account selection mechanism in the realm of ABM. It's super interesting. They built it in-house, which was impressive. So today we are going to explore how they do it, what goes under the hood. So if you're selling to B2B enterprise and then your pipeline is slowing down, this episode might have a few ideas for you.
Let's go to the basics of why is this required? Like, why is account selection analysis so critical? Like, why should a company care? Why should a CMO care?
So at a basic level, it allows your go-to-market motion to operate more efficiently across both sales and marketing. And by operate more efficiently, I mean the resources you have in terms of people and the time they spend working against that segment, but also your budgets. So if you are able to focus in on the accounts that actually matter, you can convert more faster at a reduced cost. And that's essentially the whole reason why you want to really kind of focus in on your serviceable market.
Kind of increase your productivity into like not going after accounts that might look fit on paper but are actually not fit for you. And
totally.
Surface the more. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you can go after let's say, put it in numbers, right? Like you can go after 10,000 accounts that maybe 6,000 of them are noise, and you won't know they're noise until a salesperson books the meeting and has the introductory call. Or you can go after 2,000 accounts where, the conversion rate and the quality of those calls is going to be infinitely higher. So save time, save money, talk to the right people, right types of accounts.
I also have a follow-up question, Matt. I do see that in the account-based marketing in that specific area, everyone is serious about selecting the account. But I do believe that beyond that, where there is no like maybe the team doesn't have account-based marketing in place, still I believe that selection of accounts are very important, because at the end of the day, otherwise SDRs are wasting their time.
Yeah, so I think it also it's especially important in verticals. So if you have a horizontal product, right, maybe you can just go on based on general, industry, like firmographic targeting, right? Like industry, revenue bands, stuff like that. But if you're in a vertical, chances are like it's not the whole vertical that's applicable to your product. It's like a kind of a nuanced segment within it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's like really, really important. But it's more so important for vertical specific SaaS or vertical offerings than it is some of the more horizontal stuff.
Yeah, completely makes sense. And in fact, even for horizontal, like for example, let's take Interpret. They are selling to a product management team, right? It's sort of a horizontal product, but still, like they can see, instead of website, they can actually see the app store ratings. Yep. And then figure out the signal where they have a lot of users. That's one signal. They can use that data, and then checking whether they have some bad reviews and so on and so forth, get the data as a signal. And that could also be a very good signal instead of just attacking, firmographic, like computer software and so on and so forth. So vertical, horizontal.
And I think the other thing that's worth mentioning, right? So like if you think about kind of how people approach targeting, I think, or account selection, I think the very basic level is industry, revenue band, or some idea of size based on revenue or employees, technographics, so what technologies are they using? But even then, some of those technologies are just limited to, whatever's on the website, right? Whatever script embeds on the website. It's that tell you much, right? It really doesn't. So like the more nuanced signals you can get that are indicative of what that company actually is and what they do, it's for stuff that you can't really get from a lot of different data vendors, like that's the gold right there.
So Matt, you guys have built something super cool in-house. Okay, this is super impressive. Okay, and you guys are using some sort of a data-driven account selection process, and in that you're blending in machine learning algorithms and so on and so forth. And you wrote a Medium post. We just loved it. Would it be possible for you to give us a simple version rundown? Because most of our audience are folks from marketing and demand gen, a little bit of SDR sales. So if you can give us a rundown of the steps and the how-to part.
So yeah, sure. So the hypothesis was that the data that we really care about is on our prospect websites, right? So if we can cast a wide net and then better understand who those companies are by how they talk about themselves, that would allow us to focus in on the accounts that we actually want to sell to. So essentially what we did was we cast a wide net where we said, hey, our total addressable market within this space is companies within these, like the basic targeting, right? So companies within these kind of revenue bands or employee bands in this particular industry using these SIC codes, right? And that kind of gives you like a relatively wide net of companies. That worked out to, I think it was something like 15,000 companies. But then what we wanted to do was, filter it down significantly. So essentially what we did was scrape those websites. So extract the text from those websites, turn that text into basically making it machine readable using something called embeddings. And then we essentially layered both our internal like subject matter expert knowledge with a couple different machine learning methods to basically build a model that could identify this is a good account, this is a bad account. And we got it to a point where it was actually pretty accurate, or accurate enough where it saved us a ton of time. But those were essentially the steps.
Super. You had a step where you said that a building model is one part of it, and then making sure that your entire team now runs on that model is a lot. Like there's a lot relying on that model. So you guys had a small verification process as well, right? Where you took a blind set and we started testing. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that was how, if you're building a machine learning model, a supervised machine learning model, you need training data, right? So the training data was, we essentially had two of our solution engineers go through a list of those 15,000, go through a list of 1,000, a little over 1,000 actually. I think it was like 1,200. Check out their websites and essentially mark yes or no whether or not that account was in our ICP. So then if you think about it, what we essentially had was we have the website text of those websites that they labeled. We have all the other cool or interesting data like, number of employees and revenue bands and technologies and stuff like that. So essentially we took text of the website, everything else we know about that company, and whether or not they were in ICP or not based on our solution engineers actually looking at their website. And then we trained a machine learning model based on that data. I think it was a support vector machine, SVM.
The next, I think the challenge that, we keep hearing this as we talk to a lot of the demand gen teams who are lean specifically. The question that arises is, how do you basically operationalize it in terms of the project? Did you guys have internal dev teams help you? Do you commission the project? No. Because that's a realistic challenge. So how did you go about it?
I'm a nerd. So I actually wrote this while I'm like at nights on the weekends, but in terms of getting the knowledge, right, it was part of a process that like a cross-functional team like worked on, right? So we talked about it. It was myself, our director of growth, Jeremy Creighton, our solution engineers, and we essentially all got together and said, okay, like this is the approach we want to take. but then it was on me to go build it. So then what we did was basically try a few different models, tweaking it along the way, and then measured the precision. And I'll give you the details of how we actually operationalized it. But essentially, we would meet and say, okay, like this is a new rev of the model. What's the precision? How accurate is it? How good is it at addressing, like actually picking out, recall, essentially all of the accounts that are actually good. And then once we had a model that was decent, we took it, we ran it across all of our accounts, and then we took those and basically tagged them in Salesforce. So the way we operationalized it was taking the knowledge, basically taking the data and the knowledge that we used, that I ended up building on my local machine, but then putting it in Salesforce, which is like the source of truth for, pretty much every go-to-market team.
And how does it work now? Now you have a list of the accounts that is absolutely frozen. You guys are 100% sure that these are the good accounts to go after. And how often do you refresh? Is it like a 6 months refresh, or because companies change, scenarios change?
Yeah, exactly. It's more so if there's a new company that comes in that we, for whatever reason, haven't looked at before, and we can't filter them out based on other factors. Truthfully, it took a good chunk of time to go through this process the first time. Probably took us, a couple weeks to build, but then a month or so to, actually get to the, hey, this is now in Salesforce and we're using it. So we haven't actually gotten to the next part, which is, hey, we have to refresh the model yet. So I would imagine we're going to do that every 6 months, because I don't have the time to do it every month. So yeah, that's where we're at.
And every month you'll not have new companies also, new websites also. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you cast a wide enough net up front, right? Like hopefully the number of new companies that come in the door that you haven't already built intelligence on is relatively few and far between.
All right. So Matt, clearly the world is moving towards signal-based prospecting. No more dumping data from LinkedIn and then mass blast email. It's not going to work. So what sort of signals do you see that have a lot of potential? You see a strong correlation with the conversion. One signal you have already spoken about, which is the relevant signal, which is the website in a way. What else? What are other signals do you see in doing well?
A couple. One that we're actively looking at is hiring data. So we work with, again, another like kind of skunk work project that I had going on at night was taking that same account database and enriching it with job posting data for all of those accounts. So essentially kind of building a key to job posting data for each account. And what that allowed us to do is identify what companies are actually growing, as in hiring for specific roles that would be indicative of growth within the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Because chances are, if a company is hiring, for instance, for sales or account management or operations or customer service, like specific roles that you would associate with acquiring, that new customer growth, they're probably in a position to write a check for software like ours. So hiring is a big one, not just like number of employees, but hiring for specific types of roles. Another one is, it's been a little bit more tricky to get this data, but back-end technologies, like not just the stuff on the website, back-end tech is really helpful. I feel like different data vendors have like kind of, it's sparse in terms of how much knowledge they have within specific domains, right? Like within ours, like they don't have good intelligence on like what transportation management systems a lot of our prospects are using. Like that's kind of a hard data point to get. What else? Other ones are more standard, right? Like within SaaS, like not necessarily new. Like, hey, did they recently raise a round of funding? Do they have money to spend? But the big one for us is hiring data, and being able to kind of filter that on different time windows or time horizons, and for specific types of roles.
Super. And this is from our experience working in this space for some time. there's no, as you mentioned, that it's very difficult to really believe a vendor's claim that this technology is actually inside the company. So for us, as of now, the best correlation that we have found is basically whatever technology the company is self-declaring that they have, either it's a website or in the job, those are actually reliable. The problem with the job is, as you mentioned, that the historical job. So if you have a company and you want to understand whether they have a specific tech, you're looking for their job post. But if they don't have a job post, then how do you do, right? I mean, you have to go to a historical job. Historical jobs are not available on LinkedIn. Nobody archives that, except a few vendors like CoSignal and all these guys have like a historical job.
Yeah, funny you mentioned CoreSignal. That is the vendor that we're using for that data.
So this is more for the audience.
Awesome. So Matt, thanks for shedding some light on how you could create a clean target account list. Now, once you have the list, comes the next part is hitting that list, right? With ABM campaigns. So would love your insights on what sort of channels are working best in 2024 for you. What approaches are working best for ABM? If you could share some insights on that.
Sure. So the channels themselves are going to be dependent on your company and the industry you're operating in, who you sell to, right? Like the different channels for different companies. We use that target account list for everything across channels. So, for instance, like obviously outbound prospecting, like very filtered views using that like in ICP or not an ICP prediction across everything. We use it to evaluate industry associations. If they have members hosted on their website or listed on their website, we will take the data from the website and see what percentage of their membership are in ICP or not. We do it for events that we're attending. So I'm listing channels that we actually use, right? But same thing with advertising, right? Obviously, we do like some segmentation on top of it to deliver ads to more specific cuts of that audience. But our matched audience, for instance, on LinkedIn, is based on the prediction that we made as to whether the account's an ICP or not. And then we, like I said, slice that list up to different kind of cuts so we can deliver more personalized messaging. So yeah, for us, ABM, it's not just advertising. It goes across everything that you do as a go-to-market function. But specifically for Logix Board, LinkedIn advertising, industry associations, and local meetups, like the kind of like micro events that are associated with that association. Physical events like trade shows, stuff like that. And then all of our kind of field marketing and outbound prospecting is like entirely reliant on CP definition.
Specifically, I have some more questions on LinkedIn ads. So if you could delve deeper on how do you leverage these target account lists and what kind of strategies are working for you in advertising. So there are a lot of them out there when it comes to ABM. There's 1:1 ABM where you kind of show an ad specifically to employees of one company. Then there is 1:few where you show ads to a particular job function across 10 companies, if not more. And there are like a couple of other these advertisement strategies on LinkedIn. So what do you suggest people try when they have a clean target account list to go after?
Again, it depends on your company and who you're selling to. For us, it's mostly 1:few and 1:many. The way we structure our campaigns, and this is like a similar playbook that other companies would do, right? Is bring them in to the funnel with top of funnel content that's like valuable to them. So if you have like a state of the industry report or something like that, right? Like warm them up, get them familiar with your brand, provide them something valuable, and then retarget them with more middle of funnel and bottom of funnel offers. And those offers are dependent on like who you are, what offers you can give as a company, right? It doesn't have to just be a demo. There's probably some specific things that you can do that maybe another company in another industry can't do, right? But that's the playbook. One to few, one to many, bring them in with content at the top of the funnel, and then retarget them with bottom of the funnel offers.
Besides demo, are there any bottom of the funnel offers that you've seen work?
I can tell, I know what works for us. Data quality is a big thing. If you're looking at a solution like Logic's board, so being able to say, hey, we'll give you a free evaluation of your data, right? Like, is your data ready for a platform like Logic's board? Again, it like really depends on the industry. I mean, some people will incentivize a call, right? Like, where are you on the maturity curve? Like, we'll buy you lunch. Like, we'll tell you where you are as your level of sophistication as an organization, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the most basic one that's still popular right now is like, give us 15 minutes and we'll buy you lunch, which still works for some companies. So
incentivized demos, yeah.
Yeah, incentivized demos, Amazon gift card. I literally did one for another company. It was like a survey the other day. It's like, here's your Amazon gift card. I'm like, okay, sounds good. How helpful it was for them. I hope it was. But yeah, those are some of the offers I've seen.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Matt.
No problem.
Right. And I have one more question. There's a hot technology in the horizon. Visitor identification, web DMS. What's your take on that? I mean, where are you standing on that?
I feel I have thoughts. So my view on that is a few things. I don't think there's anything like some people are like, oh, like it's violates user privacy. It's not doing anything more sketchy than what ad networks do. Period. Right? Like I don't view it as anything sketchy or anything like that. I think it'll probably be trying to stretch it into this new category of a sales motion, right? Like inbound led prospecting or inbound led outbound. Like,
inbound led outbound.
Yeah, inbound led out. I mean, like it's like calling like chatbots like conversational marketing. Like don't get me wrong, it's cool tech, but like it's not like and it's valuable, right? And it's helpful. Obviously, it's valuable and helpful, but like it's not it's not something new. So yeah, my view is calling it that is kind of a stretch. I do think it like inbound led outbound, I think it's silly, but I do think it's going to be here. It'll be here to stay, right? I think initially, because I think like essentially how they're doing it is like cookie fingerprinting and like being able to tie that to an ID or to tie that to a real person. I was initially like, oh, well, cookies are going to get sunsetted, like what does that mean? But since Google basically kind of reverse tracks a little bit, I think that tech is going to be here to stay. And I think it's valuable. I think it probably works if you're driving high quality traffic to your site. We've been playing with it for what it's worth. So, but that's my take on that stuff.
Yeah, I think account-based marketing where you have limited accounts and those are very valuable to you. Every visit from those accounts are really valuable. I mean, if there is a way to track that, I mean, we can criticize as much as whether it's fishy or the back-end technology, how much privacy it has, but it is a valuable from what it offers specifically for account-based marketing.
So it's valuable. I'm sure there will be other people coming to do it or who incorporate it as a feature as part of a larger platform. I am sure that is coming. Yeah, it's valuable. It's going to be stretched into trying to be bigger than what it probably is my guess. But it's valuable.
All right. So we'll move on to the last question. Okay. How are we doing in terms of time? Yeah, I think we are good. Should I go with this question? Or you want to?
Yep.
All right. So Matt, the last question that we have is what we want to discuss next is what are the other automations that you are super bullish in 2024 and onward? Say, for example, Clay and all of that. There's a lot of buzz around that.
Say that.
But in general, overall, what all sort of automations you're super bullish?
I think in general, I think Clay has a lot of buzz around it, but I think what's interesting about Clay is they're kind of putting the SDR in the driver's seat a little bit, like really sophisticated, like salespeople, or not really sophisticated, but it enables salespeople to do like more specific messaging and targeting in mass faster. I think that's really interesting. I think I still haven't seen, I think the personalization is still somewhat basic. Like I haven't seen like, true, like, hey, pulling in everything there is to know about a profile and creating a really personalized email automatically. I haven't seen too much of that, but I think that's probably on the horizon. I'm sure there's some vendors who, are starting to do it, right? But I don't think it's like penetration within like sales teams and SDR teams. I don't think it's quite there yet. But I think that is where things are going to go, is where you're able to build a hyper-targeted account segment. You're able to really identify target personas within those accounts, which already happens today a little bit, or already happens today. But then I think your ability to deliver hyper-personalized messaging automatically, quickly to that entire audience, I think that's coming in the not too distant future. OpenAI and companies like it make it very easy to do things like that. And I think it's probably happening a little bit right now, but the steps are removed, right? Like someone may take a list, upload it to ChatGPT and with some parameters, right? Like, some extra columns tied to the contacts and be like, hey, create, this is my company, this is the product. These are some details about these target contacts, create email messages for each one. Like people are probably doing that to an extent, or they're doing it on a one-on-one basis, right? But it's not like connected into like this smooth, like automated sales flow. I think that is coming and I'm scared. But yeah, that's coming. At least that's something I think is probably going to happen in the near future. What else? I think we're going to start to see, it's already happening, right? But I think you're starting to see other companies come out with more sophisticated ways to build target account lists based on signals that others don't typically look at, people don't typically look at. I'm not going to like name drop companies, but like there's a couple new companies out that are doing that. What else? I think
what's your
intent
thought on
scoring.
email? About
Future
future of email. Is it going to be, do you think it'll be cold email there in 2026?
Yes. I think it's going to evolve. I think it's already changing now a little bit, but I think, the days of being able to upload a cold list into SalesLoft or Outreach and just blast out thousands and thousands of emails each week, like that's done. The relevancy of the messaging matters a lot. Getting opens and engagement matters a lot. Otherwise, your domain gets labeled, with sending out a lot of gray mail. Here's what I think what's going to happen, actually. I think it's going to become more important to send personalized messaging, right? That drives engagement because you can only send so many emails, and engagement, prohibits you from being filtered across like Gmail, for instance, like, getting labeled as gray mail. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have tools that evolve to send that personalized messaging, right? Like what I was kind of talking about earlier, but using like, LLMs to do it. Then I think the email providers will catch up. They'll put in filters to detect like AI created email copy, and then it's just gonna go like this, like, for the next 10 years. That's what I think is gonna happen. I think it's going away, but it's gonna become it's gonna become hyper personalized and automated, but then it's gonna be like, the email providers catching up to try and filter it out, and then it's just gonna evolve from there.
All right. I think we covered a lot of things. We started with a very specific topic and then broadened out to a lot of other things.
It's fun.
Always nice catching up with you, Matt. Thanks a lot for doing this. I hope you had a good time. And
yeah, I had fun. I love talking about this stuff.
Sure. We should catch up sometime later when we have some more hot topics and we need hot takes. I think we'll get you on the panel.
Sounds like a plan. Good deal.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Nice meeting you. Have a good one.
Nice.
Bye, Saunak.